What's up guys, Hassan Malik back here with another video. And today I wanted to do a comparison between two great LEGO themes, Star Wars and Marvel. We'll take a look at where these themes excel, where they may be lacking, and what they could learn from each other to make even better LEGO sets. But before we get into it, I did want to remind you guys about the bi-monthly giveaway for $100 worth of your choice of LEGO sets from the online LEGO store, which has just started and will be running till the end of November. To enter, all you have to do is make sure you are subscribed, then click on the link below and sign in using your YouTube account. That's it, completely free. You can choose sets from any theme including Marvel or Star Wars. For more details, click on the card above or head over to the video with the thumbnail you're seeing now. Good luck to everyone who enters. Alright, let's get into it. First of all, I do have to mention that the Star Wars theme started all the way back in 1999, which means it's been around for over twice as long as Marvel, which only started in 2012. But in that time, Marvel has made a lot of quality sets and has had no shortage of material to pull inspiration from. Let's take a look at the source material that these sets are generally based on. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has completely dominated movies and pop culture over the last decade, and even gives Star Wars, which is one of the biggest film franchises of all time, a run for its money. I'd say that in the last decade, Marvel has completely dominated Star Wars in terms of growth and popularity, even with Disney purchasing Star Wars and creating an entire new trilogy, as well as other films and TV shows based on the universe. Since 2012, Marvel has made 18 blockbuster movies, while Star Wars has only released 5, with a few great TV series as well. And what that has meant for LEGO is that the designers have a lot more options when it comes to making sets, since there are just so many more recent films to choose from. This is definitely a big advantage for the Marvel theme, as the MCU seems to be on the up and up, while Star Wars seems to be on a little bit of a hiatus. Now granted, Star Wars is mostly known for the 6 movies that came before the Disney era, and that's actually where the Star Wars theme completely dominates Marvel. Marvel really doesn't have a backlog of beloved and iconic characters, vehicles, and moments to base sets off of in the way that Star Wars does. There are the Marvel comics and TV shows that drive the inspiration of a lot of sets, but those all pale in comparison to the juggernaut that is Star Wars, which gives the LEGO Star Wars theme a big advantage. So both these themes definitely have pros and cons when it comes to their source materials, and in a way that kind of makes them both tied on that front. Although we will have to see how long Star Wars can keep milking the previous films, while Marvel is churning out a lot of content very fast. But that argument about Marvel not having moments to revisit brings me to another point, which is that LEGO very rarely goes back to make sets based on movies that came out previously. For example, there are a lot of great moments in a movie like Iron Man 3, but LEGO will never make a set based on that now. The only time we received sets based on that movie was the initial wave that released alongside it. And that seems really weird in comparison to Star Wars, that pretty much bases majority of their sets on prior media. Now there are a couple of reasons this could be happening. Firstly, Marvel does tend to put out a lot of movies each year, and since LEGO only has a specific budget for this theme, they can only make a certain amount of sets each year. So they would much rather give us sets based on current relevant movies than previous ones that don't have any hype at the moment. And that is a good decision. If I had to pick, I'd much rather see sets based on new movies rather than the old ones. It's almost like Marvel is doing too well for its own good. They are making so much good content so fast that LEGO can't really keep up. But there is another reason for why this happens, which is far more likely. Disney is not nearly as lenient with licensing as other companies, like Warner for example. So LEGO probably only has the licensing to make sets for a specific movie for a certain amount of time. And a big sign supporting this are the newer Star Wars movies. When we take a look at the LEGO sets that we've gotten since 2015, we typically see 1 or 2 waves of sets based on a film, then they aren't really heard from again, regardless of how iconic they are or not. For example, Rogue One, which is a fantastic film but only had a couple waves of sets based on the movie, and we haven't seen anything after that. Same with Solo, The Last Jedi, and even Rise of Skywalker, which I guess did technically get a set this summer, but it doesn't look like we'll be getting anything next year. So it does really seem like Disney is locking down their newer movies and how often LEGO can make sets on them. Now I do want to mention that there are a few sets that do break this unofficial rule. For example, the Ultron Edition Hulkbuster, which was released in 2018, but was based on Avengers Age of Ultron from 2015. And we've seen a few Force Awakens sets emerge after the film's release, like Duel on Starkiller Base, which is a great little set. But for the most part, it seems like both these themes are afraid to revisit some of their recent films, which hurts Marvel a lot more than Star Wars, that still has an entire saga to fall back on. The next thing I wanted to discuss is the actual quality of these sets, which breaks down into two categories, minifigures and builds. Discussing builds in sets does mean I have to bring up the age categories that these two themes target for the most part. Both themes have sets for older and younger fans, but they do take different approaches in which ones they target. Marvel does make more sets for the younger demographic, while Star Wars does try to aim at the older audience with things like the UCS, MBS, and Helmets line. And I think that's a good thing, which has worked pretty well for LEGO over the years. Star Wars does obviously have a greater pull with older fans since it's been around for so long, while the MCU has only been created recently. I'm not saying that there aren't older Marvel fans or younger Star Wars fans. I'm just saying that LEGO does lean heavier toward one demographic over the other with these themes. Now, what Marvel could learn from Star Wars is that they need to do a better job of accurately representing the iconic vehicles and locations from the movies. Star Wars sets have always made for great toys, but always work as great display pieces too. Whereas most Marvel sets seem to favor playability over displayability. An example of this is the Hulkbuster. LEGO has made many different variations of this iconic Iron Man armor, but they never seem to do that great of a job at recreating the in-universe variant. And that's mainly because when designing this set, LEGO does lean heavily toward playability instead of how nice it would look on display. They did make that UCS Hulkbuster, which is a great set, but still very inaccurate compared to the movie. So I'd like to see more accurate vehicles and moments from the MCU, since there are so many iconic ones. Now, Star Wars could also learn a thing or two. Most Star Wars sets are vehicles, and that's fine since vehicles are the things most of us fans ask for. But I also think Star Wars could do a better job at trying to recreate moments and locations instead of ships and structures. They have been changing this up recently though, by introducing sets like Bespin Duel and Mos Eisley Cantina. But in the 2 decades that the Star Wars theme has existed, there are a lot of moments and scenes that I feel like they've missed out on, like the Geonosis Arena, a trash compactor or detention block set, and the Senate, or anything from Coruscant for that matter. We've seen remake after remake of different ships like X-Wings and TIE Fighters, which obviously sell really well, but I'd still like to see a lot more scenes rather than literal things. Moving on to minifigures, I think there's a lot Star Wars could take away from Marvel here. Marvel minifigures will always use dual molded legs or arm printing wherever it's needed. But for some reason, Star Wars won't do this on even the most important of characters. Take a look at the MCU Spider-Man and Rey. Rey really does need some arm printing to capture the look of her character. Her arm sleeves are pretty vital to complete that look, and some dual molded legs for her boots would be great as well. But LEGO didn't decide to include either of those things, even though she's literally the main character of the sequel trilogy. But Spider-Man over here has all the super detailed arm printing he needs, and dual molded printed legs, which you could argue aren't even that necessary to capturing his look. Even a figure like the Avengers video game Black Widow gets some pretty great arm printing, and in comparison to Rey, she's pretty irrelevant. This is a major nitpick, but I would like to see Star Wars step up their game a little bit to give us better quality figures that Marvel has been receiving for a while now. But Marvel is by no means perfect when it comes to minifigures, and there are a few things I think this theme could learn from Star Wars. The main one being that Marvel needs to do a better job at giving us different variations of the characters we know and love. They do a great job with Iron Man, but that's about it. I think a great example of this are the Avengers Endgame sets. Every single character here wears the exact same time travel suit instead of some of the iconic suits we see them wear in the film. Which really sucks since it means we don't get figures like Captain America in his feathered final battle suit, Hawkeye in his Ronin armor, and Fat Thor, which I know every LEGO Marvel fan would love to receive. Now, this could also be chalked up to Disney though, since LEGO really doesn't get to see these final character variations until very late in the design process. Star Wars, on the other hand, does a great job of giving us characters from all over the universe, both big and small, and in all the variations that we usually see them in. A great example of this is the Mos Eisley Cantina, which includes so many different cool background characters and aliens. But I still don't think Star Wars is perfect at this and really needs to step up the different variations and amount of clones we get. Regardless, it's still a lot better than Marvel. The last thing I wanted to discuss is pricing, which I think both of these themes pretty much suck at. And that's not really a surprise since they are both owned by Disney, so what can you really do? But in summary, I think both these themes are tied when it comes to their source material. Marvel does make much better minifigures, but Star Wars does still have an advantage when it comes to sets, in my opinion. And like I've said before, I am very much a builds before figures kind of guy. So for me, overall, I'd say Star Wars is the better LEGO theme. But I am a much bigger Star Wars fan than a Marvel one, so I may be a little biased. And that will pretty much do it for this comparison video. Make sure to let me know what theme you prefer and why. This channel has always been about creating a dialogue about our shared hobby of LEGO, so make sure to leave your takes down in the comments below whether you agree with me or not. And make sure to enter the giveaway by following the link in the description if you haven't done so already. But that will pretty much do it for me. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.